believe how fast this happens? It feels like it was yesterday that we were talking about the message, and now we're gonna be talking about analytics and optimization, something that can be a little bit overwhelming at times. But thankfully, we have speakers that make it so much easier. So that is wonderful. Remember that today, and in every session, we are recording the main sessions. We do not record the breakout activities. And that this program is funded by the Economic Development Administration, as well as the 18 cities, 4 counties, 2 federal agencies, 1 nonprofit, and 1 foundation that work with us throughout the state and beyond. So here's where we are today on the second to last session, and we're going to be talking about search engine optimization. Now, oopsie, I didn't fit. Things are just going crazy. Sorry, so we had a change today, and we have a different speaker. Rachel is not going to be able to join us. So we have Melissa. This yellow rectangle should be down here. So this hasn't changed, even though our speaker changed. Our mentor hour is still going to be tomorrow at 10 in the morning. So bring your questions. Remember that the pitch video and the marketing framework are due today. The pitch video is not required for graduation. It is optional, but it does give you access to the prices that I'm going to talk to you about here in a little bit. And the marketing framework, it is part of being able to graduate. We could extend the deadline for Friday if you guys feel like it's too much. Let us know in the chat what you think, and we can make that happen. We've been talking about mentor hours and how some of you weren't able to make it, but some of you did go to pretty much all of them. So what we're going to do is we're going to give a special distinction on your diploma for doing that and for fulfilling all of the requirements. So with that, you guys receive some recognition, but also we break down the barriers because you guys have been here on each session. You've been learning. So this is all training that you've been receiving and tools that you can apply for your business, and that does reserve recognition as well. So let's talk about the prices. We have, it's essentially a package with Jessica Yelas on your mindful marketing. So this is about 5 sessions that you get one-on-one and support throughout that time. You get tools to be able to track your goals and make sure that you are reaching what you want to reach or do with your social media strategy. Then this is a fun part. We have a few products, let's say, to improve your video content. And that includes a ring light, a phone stabilizer, and a microphone. So this way you guys can tackle video with the right tools and improve your content that way. And then we also have, I wanted to share with you a video that the keynote speaker made for us, and it's very linked to this video package I just showed you.
Hi, RAINmakers. I'm Kristen Nair, CEO of Bootcamp Digital, and I'm so excited to have the opportunity to speak with you at your graduation. We'll talk about some of the trends in digital marketing and specifically how you can apply them to your business or your organization. Digital has such a tremendous power to drive results, and you already know this. That's why you participated in this program. But I wanted to give you a sneak peek by talking about one of the trends that I feel really passionate about, and that is video, what we're doing right now. Study after study after study shows that video has a unique power to connect with your audience. Even if you think about this video that you're watching now, if I wrote all of the same words and sent you an article, it just wouldn't have the same impact as you watching the live motion and the connection we can feel with each other when we see video. So as we think about where the trends are going in digital marketing, one of the things we see is that video has a tremendous power to convert and to drive brand awareness. On almost every social network, video is the #1 performing content. YouTube is the #2 search engine and has a huge opportunity to actually drive conversions for your business. The key to success isn't just creating videos, it's regularly creating videos that are optimized for the digital platforms that drive your results. We'll dig into this and more trends at your commencement. Thank you so much, and I can't wait to see you there. Let's make it rain.
Yes. Woohoo! All right. So I hope you guys. All right. So now, after we talked about graduation, I want to bring in Nate because he has an announcement.
Hey everybody, sorry for the background noise. I'm at Mugs in Lebanon, but we're going to be throwing a graduation celebration on June 25th. I just put it in the chat. There's a link there to sign up. Space is limited. It's going to be in Monroe, Oregon, in southern Benton County. I know that that's not near everybody, but for those that it is near, we'd love to have you there. We'll be celebrating and also kind of introducing you to follow-on mentors and networking as well. So hope to see you there.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Nate. So now you guys know if you are planning or want to plan to go out into the valley and connect with other rainmakers, you can do that on June 25th. So right now, I am going to continue this part. The agenda for today is very similar to the other agendas we've had before. We're going to have our breakout session at 10. And we're going to have our presentation starting here shortly. It looks like we are right on time. I love that. So you guys, if you have any questions, remember to write them on the chat. We'll be monitoring them and answer as many as we can. Today, our featured speaker is Melissa Herrera. She is a digital specialist at Deskia. And she has been focusing on SEO as well as social media ads. So today we're going to talk a little bit about what SEO really is about and how you can improve that aspect of your business. And right now she's in Honduras, which is like, oh my gosh, so warm, and we're raining over here so much. So welcome, Melissa. Thank you so much for taking the lead today and preparing this for us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Definitely excited to see all of you guys.
All right. Okay. So let me know if you need any help, and I'll be chiming in into the chat to make sure that we have all the questions.
Perfect. I'll be sharing my screen for a little presentation that I have for you guys, but I also want to introduce myself. Like Ani said, I'm a digital specialist at Dexia. We're an agency in West Michigan, and we recently have been merging with agencies in Portland. We have one in Indiana. So we're all over the US. And like she said, I'm in Honduras right now because Grand Rapids is way too cold for my heart. So definitely need a little bit of beach, a little bit of sun. When I first started, actually, I had no idea what SEO was. I didn't even know what it meant, to be completely honest with you. And once you start working with SEO, you start realizing this is a lot of work. It's a beast. And it can be very overwhelming, especially when you have no idea what you're doing. But I also found that there are three main things that made my work a lot easier at my agency. And in order to provide value to the SEO strategies that we were driving for our clients. So there are three main pillars that I basically have set up for you guys to be able to create a killer SEO strategy for your own business. The first one is start local. The second one is content, and more content. SEO is all about the content. And then the last one is make it make sense to you. So starting local. A lot of people think that, you have your website and you just launch your website and you're very excited to start optimizing it. and you just started your social media profiles and everyone's excited to start driving traffic to those profiles to your website, but they try to go way too big. The reality is that you should be starting a little bit smaller, sometimes starting local with platforms that Google already provides to you is the best way for you to start optimizing your website, the best way to optimize your social media profiles, and just like your content in general. So one of the main platforms that we love using is Google My Business. The reason I love using it is because it's free and you can just control all the content that you write on it. So during COVID, I actually got the chance to work with Indiana SBDC. And what we realized was that many small businesses found that they had only been, thinking about the local presence of their business. They were not thinking about the online presence. And when COVID happened, many things shut down. People were not able to go to businesses, and they started seeing their sales drop. What those small businesses started doing was they wanted an online presence. And a lot of times they didn't know how to start. So what we did is we partnered with them and we actually created hundreds of Google My Business profiles for small businesses in Indiana. And what they found is that it was very valuable because people were now calling them and people now realized, oh, the local business is shut down, but they're still in business because we're calling them, we're finding their website, we're finding, updates. Google My Business is a great platform because you can give updates about, promotions. You can give updates, just like casual updates about your business, maybe a new hire. You can also just have different categories and use those keywords that everyone loves in SEO and use them in your Google My Business profile for free and just see how those things perform. You can also highlight your locations so people can find you on maps more easily. They can find your phone number more easily, and they can see your operating hours. So all of these things, people think that it might not be that important, but this is the very, very foundation of a solid SEO strategy. I'm sure you guys have heard of the NAP acronym, which is name, address, phone number. And Google My Business gives you a great way to start doing that. And if you've already have your Google My Business and you want to amp it up a little, you can use Moz Local, which you have to pay for it, but this is a great platform where you can start looking at all the listings that link back to your business. And from there, you can start updating all of your data so that your name, your address, and your phone number are all up to date and it all makes sense. Because you want to make sure that your potential customer is well informed on your business. The other reason that Google My Business and Moz Local are great platforms for you to use is because of reviews. Many people don't want to buy stuff from places that they don't trust. And reviews are a great way to start building authority for your business. And this can be as simple as asking friends that have, been your customer in the past, or whenever you finish, an audit or a project, you can ask your client to, write a small, concise review on your Google My Business profile. And this can also just, give more value to your business. The second pillar is content.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
So how does it work for people that don't have a physical address? And it's kind of weird to post your home address online. So what would you say about that?
Yeah, so Google My Business used to hate people not having physical addresses. The truth is now we live in such a virtual world that they have started giving options for those kinds of businesses. So what I would recommend for you is to start building your profile. If you see that you don't have an address, to either contact a Google My Business specialist or follow the instructions that they give you. A lot of times they just want to see that you are actually a legit business owner, and they make you record yourself in your office so that you can say I do have a place where I'm working. It's just a virtual online business. So there are options. It's not just for actual local presence, but like I said, I would encourage you to just start building your profile. If you run into some issues, contact a Google My Business specialist. They're really good at reaching back to you. Trust me, they receive thousands of emails of people asking questions every day. So one more is not going to hurt them.
Wonderful, thank you.
No problem. So now moving to content, I'm showing you guys a little business plan that we have at Dexia, actually, that we use this for every single project, from the very big one, which is just like the main marketing model, to the small ones, which is just like content creation for SEO, which is strategy, create, and manage. So for strategy, looking at through an SEO lens, you can think of it as research. So Google Analytics, Search Console, just researching your competitors. Sometimes you don't even need platforms. You can just go on Google and start typing whatever product you're trying to sell or whatever thing you're trying to sell on your website, and see who are the top people, you know, that are ranking up, and just like peruse on their website. A lot of times you can find really good information of things that maybe you know you're missing, or maybe you want to add to your website, or maybe you say, this is not that relevant, so I'm not even going to add this. A lot of times just like being a little nosy with like competitors can be a huge asset for you. And this is all part of the strategy, because like you have to build up that research in order for you to create. So once you have all of that research that you have from competitors, from Google Analytics, from Search Console, from whatever you want to use, you create content. And this content has to be relevant to your business. So one of the main things that I like to do is, for example, I go into Search Console and I see that my main topic for a blog will be, when is the best time to water your lawn? Instead of me just jumping in and start writing all of that, I actually go into Google on incognito mode and I see what the top 5 blogs are. And then from there, I start creating a strategy of how I'm going to build my content. So maybe I see, oh, the number 1 is a list. It's like the top 5 tips on how to water your lawn during the summer. Maybe that's the route that I want to go. So a lot of times people think that everything has to come from like up here by yourself, and that is not true. Take advantage of the content that's already out there and optimize it for your business. And you're going to start noticing that the more that you click on it, the more you're going to see that content on Google and online is just repeated over and over again. It's just a way that you present it to your client that changes. And then you manage it. So when you manage it, we also go back to Google Analytics and Search Console, and you start seeing how much traffic is this blog, you know, driving into my website. What is the bounce rate? Are people actually reading it? It looks like they are bouncing after 2 seconds. Maybe the content is not relevant. We use a lot of times platforms like Hotjar, which I don't know if you guys have heard about it, but it's like a good way of tracking the movement of potential audience on your website. So a lot of times we use like that kind of platforms in order to start just understanding how that specific content is doing. And then once you have that information, you go back to creating, because you have to optimize your content. A lot of people publish blogs and just leave it as it is. And that is really bad practice, because you should always be going back to your content. You should always be trying to optimize it and just make it better. You know, every year trends in SEO and in marketing change. So your content should be reflecting that as well. And then you go back to strategy and you just do this over and over again, because this is supposed to be a cycle that never ends. And a lot of people think that it's linear, but actually SEO is just, like I said, an infinite cycle that never ends for your content optimization. And then the last piece is make it make sense. And for this, I mean, make it make sense to you. A lot of times people think that SEO products are isolated. So they think, okay, keywords is one thing, link building is one thing, content writing is one thing. And actually all of those things work together. And a lot of people don't realize that, but SEO is just like the holistic marketing plan, right? You need a holistic SEO strategy. So we like to use several different platforms. And right here, I have 3 platforms that I like to use, and they are very different levels. So a very basic one is Google Search Console. Google Search Console is good because it's free. You just need your website. You don't need anyone, don't need any kind of permission. You don't need to be extensively knowledgeable about anything. Google Search Console is pretty self-explanatory, where you just put in your website and you start seeing what are the top queries, what are the top searches, your top pages. And from there, you can start building content. Then you have Google Analytics, which is a little bit more, it's a little bit more complicated, especially now that Google has completely sunsetted Google Analytics and it's actually GA4. And for this, it's pretty similar to Google Analytics. The only difference is GA4 actually helps you with your sales goals. So that was one of the main things that Google Analytics heard from several of its users, was that they wanted to track actual goals. Like, for example, if you're an e-commerce business, you wanted to track sales, add to carts, viewing products, etc. With GA4, you can do that. And to make it even a little more complicated, you can start using Tag Manager on your website. All of those two platforms are both free, and they're both pretty easy to learn because everyone online is trying to learn them along with you. So there are a lot of resources, a lot of businesses that have videos, that have tutorials on how to set up these things properly. One of my favorites is Backlinko. I love Dave Patel, and Moz also has really good resources for this. And then finally, we also have Moz. And Moz, you actually have to pay for it. And the reason we like using Moz is because this is the final step for your SEO, where you make it the most complicated, basically. Because from here, you start looking at your keywords, you start looking at your competitors, you start looking at links, and all of those things. And this is a good platform where you just keep all of those things together for your business. Like I said, a lot of times people think that one thing doesn't have to do with the other, but everything has to make sense together. So I encourage you that when you are writing content for your business, or when you're writing, your service pages, or even just social media, that you start thinking ahead, right? Have the foresight to see how are you going to link back to this specific piece. So something that I like to do is I create a content calendar in January, and it's tentative. I don't set it in stone because, like I said, marketing is always changing, especially the digital world. So you don't want to set anything in stone, but just have a tentative content calendar where I can see how each piece of content builds on each other. And I have already in January built out my whole strategy for link building. And I have already knocked out content and link building at once, working together. So I encourage you guys to, think about that, have the foresight to see how everything can work together for you. Because once everything starts working together, you're gonna start seeing results. And SEO is not linear, it's up, it's down, it's a plateau, and you don't have to worry about it as long as you continue that strategy that makes sense to you and to your goals and to your business, and that caters to your audience. I don't know if you have any questions about anything that I just talked about.
Oh yeah, there are a few. All right, so I'm gonna do some of the questions that we asked before the meeting, so because I think those are gonna be very informative, and then kind of integrated with the ones we've been having on the chat. So could you stop sharing your screen so we can actually see you? Thank you. Okay, so first questions. What are some of the misconceptions that small businesses have when it comes to SEO?
Yeah, so one of the main misconceptions that I've seen is everyone wants to start big. They want to start with a bang. And as nice as that seems, and as cool as it might be for you to, go viral one day, the truth is you have to start small. You have to start with the basics of your SEO strategy in order for you to be successful. Because one day you're viral and the next you're not. But if you have a good, solid, basic strategy, you can be guaranteed that you will have steady traffic that, maybe it might look like this through like month over month, but year over year, the hope is that it slowly starts, trending up. So making sure that you start really small. So like I said, Google My Business is a great way of starting small. where this is like a bite size of local SEO. It's free. Take advantage of it. If Google is giving you a platform that's free and that it's really easy to use it. Even if you don't really know the exact, potential that it might have, just starting it and start building slowly but surely will definitely make a difference in your business.
Wonderful. All right, so let's move to one with the chat. Can you integrate Google Workspace and Google My Business?
Yes. So with Google Workspace, you should already have some sort of entry to Google My Business. So as long as you have like a Google Suite or Gmail that you use for your business in general, just use that one instead of having multiple different Gmails. You're just going to make your life hell. If you have several emails to manage, use one, maybe yours. And I would always recommend adding one more person to manage your Google My Business. Because one of the main things that I found is people that start the Google My Business always forget that they're the managers. And then they're locked out. And then it becomes this whole mess where duplicate listings start appearing, and that is bad for your business. So I just recommend having two people managing it, one of them being you, and having one email where everything is going to.
All right, excellent. Now, some people ask about the benefit of performing research in incognito mode, but I think that was already covered on the chat. Could you give a specific example for a business? What would you do to start the SEO optimization?
There we go. Sorry,
but
my Wi-Fi dropped. I'm in Honduras right now, and in our house, the microwave, when it's turned on, the Wi-Fi drops. So I apologize.
That's awesome. It's the microwaves are interfering with it.
Yep.
I think it used to happen to me too. And now I realize that being here, it has never happened before again. That's awesome. All right. So the question was about a specific example. Like if you were to go in and improve your SEO, where do you start? What do you do?
So the first thing I always do is look at the Google My Business. Like I said, I always start that with any business that comes to us as a client. I also like connecting it to our Moz local listings just to make sure that the name, address, and phone number are all, working together. And then the third thing I do is I stay away from any platform and I just Google things. I start Googling keywords, things that I think are going to be keywords. Maybe I go to their website and I see like a service pages, lawn irrigation. So I start Googling that and seeing who the top, 5 results are, that kind of stuff. Just like making an audit of Google is a great way for you to start knowing how to build that strategy. Because using all of those platforms can be very overwhelming. They can be very confusing. So before you even jump into Google Analytics or Search Console or Moz, making sure that you understand how Google is working with those things that you want to start ranking for is very important. And then once that is done, set up your Google Analytics, especially GA4. You need to set it up in order to have historic data. So even if you don't know what you're going to be doing with GA4, set it up so that you start seeing how your audience is working. And then slowly but surely, you can start learning more and more about it, but at least have it set up so that you can have that information to look back on a year, 2 years from now. And then the last thing I would do is create a keyword list. Keyword lists are very important, and they can also be very complicated because people don't really know how to get them. We like using several different platforms for this. I like using Moz. Moz does a great job at giving you lists depending on your URL. It gives you opportunities. It gives you keywords that you're already ranking for. I also like using Google Ads sometimes because on Google Ads, what you can do is you can add your URL and just type random words, random keywords, and you start seeing how expensive they are to start, if you want to have Google Ads, you start seeing how expensive they are. And if they're too expensive, just focus on them on SEO. It's free. So just do it that way. And yeah, Search Console is another one that it's a free platform and you just start seeing the top queries that your website is appearing on. And I would say the main opportunity is when you start seeing that a specific keyword is having tons and tons of impressions, but not many links. That means that that is an opportunity for you to grab that keyword and make it your own for your business. And I know that when you start saying those terms of like queries and impressions and clicks, it doesn't make sense. But when you go into those platforms, you're going to start seeing how easy it's laid out. And it would all make sense to you when you start integrating it all together with your strategy.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So since we're talking about keywords, should you just spread them out in your content throughout your website?
Yeah, so one of the main problems that I found is people overstuff their content with keywords. Keywords are good for your content because you start ranking for those specific searches. But the key is to not make it obvious to the client that you're doing that, because I've seen it before where there's a blog that says pros and cons of digital marketing. And then the next thing is digital marketing is good. Digital marketing sells, digital marketing this, and you start seeing the same word over and over again. And what Google sees is that your content is actually spammy. So then it stops showing you on Google searches. So what you want to do is you want to have your keyword on your title for sure. That's your H1. You want to have your keyword at the beginning of your blog. So whether that is like in the first sentence or your first paragraph, and you want to have it at least once or twice in like subheadings. Another thing is people don't understand the hierarchy of setting up your web pages. So you have H1s, H2s, H3s, etc. A lot of people think that this is for aesthetic reasons, and they think that it's design wise, and that is why we pick certain, H1s or whatever. But in reality is that these kinds of hierarchies are actually very beneficial for SEO. So your H1 is what tells Google, look at this. This is the keyword. This is our main keyword. This is what we want to rank for. Your H2s should be just supporting your main keyword. So if you're writing about digital marketing, your H2s should be about SEO, email marketing, social ads, Google ads. And then you have H3s. And I don't recommend using H3s that much just because they're not that relevant. Anything after an H3 can just be like harmful for your web page. But an H3 can be good to just highlight a specific idea or like a big idea. And then when it comes to like your keywords and your actual content, just spread them out. Don't overstuff it. Don't use the same keyword in a paragraph more than once, pretty much, because it just starts reading very unnaturally. And people will notice that, believe it or not. And it just doesn't read well. It's not good for a user experience. So don't overstuff it. If you only have a keyword once on your webpage, that's fine. That's what link building is for. If you want to keep ranking for that, you can use link building to create like anchor text and all that other more complicated things, but don't stress too much about overstuffing your webpage with keywords.
Could I jump in real quick, Melissa? You mentioned, H1. I just want everybody to understand real quickly, when you're building a website, if you're building your text, you have the ability to make text bold and make it bigger and it's just basically paragraph text, but that doesn't help you from an SEO standpoint. The search engines look for the things that you've identified as a heading, and in order to know that, you actually have to utilize the H1 setting, which is something you have to learn. It's very simple once you figure it out. You simply, choose the text and then select that it is a heading. And then not only does it get bigger based on, how your page is set up visually, but that's what tells the search engines this is important. And so just wanted everybody to know that. There were some questions in the chat about that.
Yeah.
Thank you, Robert. Okay, so what's the minimum frequency of posts on Google My Business to make an impact, and what's the ideal frequency?
Yeah, so the best practice that we like to use at Dexia is once per week. The good thing about Google My Business is that they actually delete your posts after 4 weeks. So you can just reuse the same post over and over again if you cannot come up with new content. So as long as it's past that 4-week period. A lot of people don't know that, but yeah, Google My Business just randomly deletes your post after a month. So if you see that one post is driving a lot of traffic to your website on Google My Business, just use it again once they delete it. You know, it's not a big deal. I would recommend doing it once per week. You don't want to overstuff it. You don't want people to just rely on the post. You want them to actually go to your website and actually contact you. So give them, that's just like a little bait for them to actually visit you. And I also always like to use the what's new category. They have several different categories, but the what's new is like updated content about your business. And then always add your URL to it, because sometimes people click on it and that will always redirect back to your website. Or if maybe you don't have a website and you just care about calls, add your phone number to it. Whatever your, is your sales model.
Awesome, thank you. This was very, very helpful because people are raging about it over here. So thank you for that. About how much time during a week should a solo business owner be putting towards SEO analytics, review, and content updating?
So I'll be honest with you, SEO can be a huge, huge time suck for you, because if you're anything like me, you're going to start noticing trends, and then that's going to suck your time and you're going to be obsessing over numbers. My best recommendation is don't obsess over numbers. SEO is a slow but sure, progress for your website traffic and your business. Look at them once per week. Things are not going to change, from Monday to Tuesday. Your website is probably not going to get thousands of more web traffic visits in 24 hours. So don't stress too much about the numbers at first. I would say analytics, visit them once per week, once every 2 weeks, maybe, but focus on actually, elaborating on your content, elaborating on your on-page SEO. Having that foundation is actually the best practice for you. And then once you have a solid foundation, you can start seeing those numbers start changing on Google Analytics. And then for creating content, I would say we have clients that they want blogs every week, basically. I think that's good practice, especially if you don't have enough content on your website. If you're like a new website and you don't have any blogs or you don't have any reviews or anything like that, having a new blog every week is good. It doesn't have to be super specific. A good practice is 1,000 words per page is really good because it gives you enough words for you to have enough keywords in it. I would say social media, you can use it. It's also free and you can link back to your website very well, especially if you're creating new content constantly. And then I would focus once per month, probably, to create either a case study or some sort of review, or if you have this great thing that happened with one of your clients and you want to highlight it, just something like a testimonial that's going to bring value to your business for user experience, but also for SEO purposes. A really long piece can be very good for you. And this can happen once per month if you have time, right? But like I said, just focus on actually building that content. And then once you have a good foundation, you can start stressing about numbers. But that's like way, way down the funnel once your strategy is already set in place.
That is great. I was actually about to ask you about that frequency when it comes to blogs. Should you be doing your blog in your own website, or writing something on Google My Business, or would it be helpful to use a platform like Medium, for example?
I would recommend you using your website. It's a lot better and it's going to drive traffic to your actual website. If you don't have time to be writing things, you can hire, a blog writer or ghostwriter or whatever, but it's crucial for you to have your own category of resources or blogs or whatever on your website and just build up that content. It's not really valuable if it's somewhere else, unless it's link building, and link building is a little bit more complicated. But for blog writing for you, it has to be on your website and it has to be relevant content that it can link back to your service pages or to your homepage, or even just like a small like call to action to like calling sales or contacting you guys, or a form at the bottom. You have to have those small like call to actions somewhere, but yes, make sure that it's on your website.
Okay, do you have any tools that you could recommend to learn about Google Analytics 4?
Yes. So first of all, GA4 or Google has really good resources already on GA4. You can also look back to Neil Patel. He is a really good thought leader in the SEO world. He is really good at setting up templates and at setting up good practices, like best practices for beginners. And we actually use those as well because they're not just for beginners, they're just really good guidelines for us to use. So I recommend going back to those thought leaders. And sometimes it's as easy as just like following them on LinkedIn or subscribing to their newsletter. Every once in a while, they will give you an advice that you would want to implement that's really easy, timely, and measurable in the long run. And that is the most important thing. You have to make sure that those changes that you're making are actually measurable for you to compare back to, because sometimes with SEO, when you're making changes, it feels like you're just making changes in the void and you don't see the differences. So making sure that you have those measurable changes is very important. But yes, Backlinko, Neil Patel, and Moz are really great resources for you guys to look back to.
Excellent. Now, there are a lot of questions about blogs. So should you use them to talk about your business, like to chat about your business? And then the other question is, what do you suggest to do with video blogs? And if it's a good idea to use video for your blog?
Yes. So for blogs, this is another misconception where I've had it with clients where they say to me, oh, this content is so boring because who is searching what is spray foam? But you're going to be surprised at how many people are searching what is spray foam. And if you start, ranking for that spray foam category or keyword, they will be going to your website, reading your blog, and they are getting value from it because they are learning what spray foam is. And then they're going to see a call to action where they can call you back. The important thing is not to be super self-serving. Blogs are supposed to be educational for your audience, but somehow they sneakily have to link back to, contacting you or a service page. So my recommendation is to always start with like the very basics, which is like, what is XYZ? Pros and cons of XYZ. This versus this. Those kinds of content actually do really well on Google because people are constantly looking for those things. So it should be educational. It doesn't have to be hyper specific. At the end of the day, you guys are your experts in your business, in your industry, and people are reaching out to you, not because they are the experts, it's because you are the experts. So, for example, I have this one client that they are an immigration attorney, and sometimes we write content for them, and they come back to us and they say, well, we need to, have all these categories and all these requisites and all these different things that are niche to their business. And something to keep in mind is people don't care about that. They just want the basic content. This is just like the very first sales funnel for them, right? And once they realize, oh my God, I don't know what this is, they reach out to you. So make sure that your content is basic. It's easy. We always recommend third grade level for reading. We want it to be very bite-sized pieces. Make sure that you're not writing like content that's like blocks and blocks of content because that's really hard to read. It's really boring to read as well. Make sure that's like a paragraph is maybe a sentence or 2 sentences tops, to add images, to make it visually appealing, and just make it really easy to read. That's the main thing for SEO content.
Okay, and can you use a video script to use it on your blog?
Yes, so that is another area of SEO that recently has been booming because of YouTube. It's video SEO, and video SEO can be very complicated because people are still trying to figure out how YouTube works. But the main thing to keep in mind is have your captions, because YouTube reads those captions. Those captions should have some keywords in it. Always look for hashtags that you can use, or categories that you can add to your video. And then if you see that that video has a lot of potential to be turned into a blog, you can either use it as a script or give a little sneak peek of what that video is going to be about and just link back to your YouTube channel or to your video or whatever platform you use. Embedding videos on web pages is not the best practice, especially for blogs, because sometimes if you overstuff a web page, it will slow down your load time, and Google does look at that. So you want to make sure that you're not embedding too many videos or not embedding too many things into your blog pages. It's okay if it's in your homepage and it's a 2-minute video, but you don't want to be overstuffing it with videos. You want to keep those platforms separate, but still connecting them by link building or, writing blogs about it.
Great. So picking up on that, or I don't know how you guys use that. I think I used the wrong phrase. How are hashtags to be coded or used with SEO?
Yes, so hashtags, we use them mostly for organic social. They are helpful for organic social. They are helpful for also video SEO. The reason that hashtags might be a little bit more complicated for video SEO is because it's in a different platform. So I do recommend using those categories and adding them to your videos on YouTube, or maybe even adding them to your Google My Business posts or your Google My Business description. It is important. And the good thing about hashtags is that they're keywords, but they look pretty casual to use. If at the bottom you have 4 different hashtags, it just looks like a normal organic post. It doesn't look like you're overstuffing anything. So making sure that you have relevant hashtags is important. And with that, you can, figure out what hashtags you want based on your keyword research that you do before anything.
All right. Is it okay or is it good at all to cross-post videos on different platforms? Do it on YouTube and then on TikTok, then on Instagram, then on LinkedIn?
Yeah, I would recommend using, if you have one piece of content that's just really good and you see the potential in it, use it wherever you can. Just make sure that everything is linking back to your website or linking back to your YouTube channel. A lot of times people think they download the video and they upload one thing to Instagram, they upload another thing to Facebook, another one to YouTube. Make sure that everything is connected. Because when everything is connected, you are mixing audiences across different platforms and just building up that audience. So don't worry about segmenting your content at all. Just if you see that anything has potential, use it as much as you can and promote it as much as you can wherever you can, right? As long as it's linking back to your website at all times and someone is answering back to those comments or likes or whatever it is, that platform has.
Okay, and then elaborating a little bit on that, do you have any way to quantify how much video is improving the traffic to your website?
Yeah, so video, it depends on where you use it, because YouTube is its own channel and it's kind of like its own website. It kind of feels like that because people are subscribing to your channel. They're not necessarily visiting your website. But when it comes to social media, Facebook, when you're scrolling, Facebook has been made for videos pretty much. If you notice, when you're scrolling, Facebook has muted your videos. So having those captions in it and gathering people's attentions, using those reels, using Instagram reels as well, is a very good way of gathering people's attention. And when they look at those posts, they will be clicking back to your website, because it has been proven that video content performs better than static images and than anything else, because it's very engaging with the customer.
Good. So, how do you recommend posting about your blog on social media? In other words, if you've taken the time to create a blog, how do you leverage as a social media content as well?
Yeah. So a lot of times it can be hard with organic. One of the things that we like to do with some of our clients that are just starting and that have very baby websites is we actually like giving that blog maybe $5 a day to promote on social media ads. So it can be something like, we have a client that is a charter school and we want to promote hiring. So we write a blog about pros and cons of working at a charter school. So what we've done is we actually have budget in our ads manager to promote this blog as an ad, but it looks like an actual post. So people don't even realize that it's a sponsored ad. And it's a content that's relevant. It's something that people are searching for, but you're already giving it to them on Facebook. And since it's an ad and you have budget behind it, it actually reaches a lot of people. We've been able to reach thousands of people to go to that specific blog, and that is a good sales funnel. So that can be a good practice of using social media as a leverage for your SEO content, because once you start building that paid web traffic, the organic traffic follows. If you want to use it just as like a social media post, I would recommend just choosing one blog per week and just highlighting it on your social media, having a good graphic that grabs your attention, and just telling them why they need to read that blog, right? Like they don't want to know exactly what the blog is about, but you want to say like, do you want to increase sales? Do you want to do this? You want to do that? Read more from our experts, right? And make sure that you are seen as the authority rather than something that they can just go and Google and find somewhere else.
Excellent. Now, some people are worried about trolls, but it is useful, right, for your SEO to have your comments turned on your videos or blogs. Do you have anything to recommend or say about that?
Yes. So it's inevitable. Sometimes you will have people commenting and just making these out-of-pocket comments, basically. The main thing for you to keep in mind is it's important to have comments on, especially on social media, because people want to interact with other people. If something starts getting out of control, you can just hide it. If something starts getting a little bit, it doesn't bring any value to the blog or whatever it is that you're promoting, just hide it. It's okay. No one needs to know that you're hiding it. And if something starts getting really spammy and people start making a lot of comments that are just trolling, that might give you an indication that you need to look back to the content that you're writing and seeing how are you promoting it. Am I writing something that is too controversial? Am I writing about something that people are interpreting the wrong way? And it's a good way of, like I showed you, that infinite cycle of just managing your content and making sure that you are adjusting with the feedback that you're getting back. But comments are a great way of it's kind of like a review basically for social media. And it's great for you to have them on because it helps people interact, especially when you have ads and they have comments. Any ad is good engagement for you, because Facebook sees that you're getting a lot of comments on something and then it starts promoting it even more. So don't be afraid of trolling comments. They're inevitable. It is going to happen, but just make sure that you are taking care of it from the very beginning and don't be afraid of hiding stuff. It's okay. Everyone does it. Everyone hides those comments.
Wonderful. Thank you. So let's see. There's one other over here about blogs. Can you give an example for optimizing a blog post that you have already published?
Yeah. So basically, I would grab the title of that blog that you already wrote, and I would Google it, and I would see what the top searches are. And then based on that, I would read maybe the top 5 blogs and see how it compares to the one that you already wrote. And then from there, you do a compare and contrast of, oh, this blog has this one thing that my blog is missing. So maybe I should add this. Or maybe you start seeing that they have more up-to-date data that you don't have on your blog. So then you start switching it to that. So that is the easiest way for you to see what's actually ranking on Google with the content that you already have. Sometimes you don't even have to start from scratch. You don't have to, reinvent the wheel. Like there's a reason those blogs are already ranking. There's already a reason why those web pages are already at the top. So just see how you can use that information and add it to your website and to your blogs.
Excellent. And then now let's switch to Google My Business. If you lose access to your Google My Business because you didn't return the postcard, what can you do in order to regain access?
Yes. So Google, yeah, we have a lot of issues with accesses to Google My Business because of what I mentioned before of people forgetting who has access to it, or, they go a long time without managing it, so they deactivate it. I would just say the main thing is reach out to a Google My Business representative. I'm guarantee you're not the only person that's happened to. I'm sure many people have had that problem before. So sometimes they have forums, they have, or just emailing directly to them where they can show you a solution. And then from there, you can start figuring out what your next step is. So I don't recommend creating a new Google My Business just because it creates a duplicate listing, and Google does not like that. And it actually stops showing you on searches. So make sure that you have access to your original one. And a lot of times you can also, if you don't have access to it or you think you're logged out, you can request access on Google My Business. If you search for that address or the name of your business, you can request access. And a lot of times they will give you access to it if no one answers in 5 days, I believe. So that might be another way that you can gain access to your profile.
All right, there you go, Marty. So let's do one more question and then go on to the breakout session. So somebody was told by a website and marketing team to post a video every day. That's crazy. Every day on Instagram and Facebook to get traction. Yet at the same time, her content is supposed to follow a theme and be of quality. So she found that videos were making her page look really bad. And how do you do both without losing quality?
Yeah. So I understand why they would have told you that, because those platforms have been made for videos. So you would think that having a bunch of videos is going to help you. The reality is that just like overstuffing your blogs and your pages with keywords, it looks very unnatural. Overstuffing your Instagram and your Facebook with videos looks very unnatural as well. So what I would recommend is videos are a great asset and you should be using them, but it shouldn't be the sole thing that you're doing. You should be having a more holistic content creation where you have maybe a motivational post, a static image, a carousel. Carousels do very, very well on Facebook and on Instagram because they're very dynamic and interactive. So I recommend, if you don't want to do a video, but you still want to have that engagement, use a carousel. They're pretty easy to use. They're very easy to set up. They're very low maintenance. But yeah, I would recommend also just having like a set schedule for your days of the week. So a lot of times, like for our clients, we say, okay, on Tuesdays, you're going to post a live video. On Wednesdays, we're going to post about a blog. On Thursday, you're going to post this one throwback video. And then on Friday, it's going to be a fun Friday post, right? And having that cadence already set up for you is going to make it a lot easier for you to come up with your content, because you already have guidelines that you have set for yourself, and you're not repeating content over and over again, which makes it look a lot more natural on your feed.
Awesome, thank you. I am a big believer that you need to do things that also feel good to you. And if doing a video, I think doing a video every day is a lot of work.
Yeah.
And like, how do you even create that much content? It's like, oh my God, you'll be talking to yourself forever. So yeah, definitely keep in mind what's good for you and don't get overwhelmed with all the things at the same time. And talking about that, let's cover the marketing framework and what's up with that. And do you need to focus on all the things and do all the things at the same time and apply everything that you have learned in the last 9 weeks? The answer is no, you don't. So let's bring Robert in to talk to you guys about the marketing framework and how you can use it and what we're looking for.
Thank you, Ani. Actually, before we do that, Melissa, you just mentioned the term carousel, and there are a couple of questions about that. So could you quickly describe what a carousel is?
Yeah, so basically on social media, you can pick 5 to 10 images basically in one post. So you might have seen this on Instagram already with like the people that you follow where they upload 3 images and you just like slide past it. That's a carousel. And the reason people like it is because they keep sliding and it's kind of like a video, but they're just sliding the other way pretty much. So that is why it's very engaging. And on Facebook and LinkedIn, you can do the same thing pretty much.
Great. Thank you very much. All right, everybody. Since that is the last session content, excluding our what we're going to get from Krista next week, which is going to be fantastic. I wanted to just do a quick sort of recap of the marketing framework, because the reality is there's nobody here who can make use of all of the content that you've heard. This has been for some of you, it's just been a fire hose. I realize there's so much here, but that's, some of that's intentional. Well, it is intentional. The intent is to provide enough content that really everybody can find something that works for you throughout this program. It's not to confuse you, and that's actually why we created the marketing framework, which I'm going to reshare right now. So the marketing framework we put together specifically to give you a sense to help filter what you actually put into practice. The idea is to take notes on all the things, but then put into practice the things that are meaningful to you. And this framework hopefully can help you with that. Just a quick recap. We started in week 1 with your message. What is it that you want to get out into the world with your marketing? What is your what's the problem that you solve? How do you solve it? What makes your solution unique? That fundamental business idea. And then what are you trying to accomplish with your marketing? How many new clients do you want to get from your marketing, whatever metric you have? Once you understand that, and then your audience, this is that customer persona point. Understanding who you're trying to connect to. This is probably the most important piece to determining what from this program you should put into practice, because it doesn't make any sense to have a strategy until you've identified who you're trying to connect with, right? And that happens a lot because we all believe that what we have is something that everybody can use and everybody will need. And so we try and reach everybody. And as you've learned, that just doesn't work. In order to capture people as interested clients, you need to focus on them. You need to speak directly to them. So this piece up here in the upper right, understanding who your audience is specifically, going back to that customer persona conversation from the early sessions, is really important. Because once you figure out who that is, it's pretty easy to figure out where you're going to reach them. If you are reaching people who are in their 20s, early 30s, you're going to be looking at Instagram or even TikTok as a social media strategy. You're probably not going to be doing LinkedIn unless they're in highly white collar professional that world. So just you can identify from your customer persona where you should be putting your efforts, and that determines down here in the bottom left what channels you feel like you need to focus on. And from then, once you've determined the channel, then the specific activities you want to put into place to actually capture them. And this is kind of like the kind of like the figure 8 we saw in Melissa's presentation. This is a cycle. This is something you start with this as an assumption. This is my core message. This is what I want to get out there. You make all of these assumptions about who you're going to be reaching and how you're going to get to them. And then, once you actually get conversions and you think about how successful you were, well, you might have to go back to some place earlier in this cycle and rethink. Maybe my message wasn't quite right, or maybe my audience, my customer persona wasn't quite right. So you make adjustments and you do it all over again, which is why this is showing as a cycle here. So for you to put this into practice, I'd say really focus on that customer persona. Be very specific with who you're trying to reach, and your customer persona has to be a human, right? Your customer persona can't be an organization. It has to be a human that's going to make the decision to engage with you about this. So don't stop at the organizational level. But once you get that, then everything else should fall in line, and you should be able to identify just 1 or 2 or maybe 3 different strategies that you've learned over these past several, many weeks. And that's all you need to do to get started. So I'm just giving you the freedom to start small, as Melissa described today. Just start small. Start with where you're at, and because if you try and do more than that, it's just going to be really confusing and probably frustrating in the end.
All right, thank you so much, Robert. We know that there are a lot of requirements, and we know that you guys are running your business. And just the fact that you took the time to connect here in the last 10 weeks, or 9 at this point, it does speak of your commitment to improving your business and your journey and your strategy and yourself. So we really want to acknowledge all of that.